Thank you everyone for joining us for our February ESEA office hour. We appreciate you taking the time to join us as we share some updates with you folks and some pertinent information. The first one we want to start with is recently the U.S. Department of Education approved Maine's DOE EdFlex application. This approval gives the state authority to offer certain federal program waivers to SAUs. At this time, the Maine DOE ESEA team is reviewing the guidance from the U.S. Department of Education and developing state-level guidance that will outline eligibility criteria and requirements if an SAU should choose to participate in one or more of these waivers that we have the authority to provide to you folks. The goal of this work is to clearly identify expectations and support informed decision-making for SAUs as they consider whether these options are a good fit for your local needs. A priority notice will be released about this approval by the end of the week and will be shared with superintendents, ESEA coordinators, and business managers. Additional information and guidance will be shared in the coming weeks in regards to participation and interest in these waiver opportunities. The other item that I want to draw to your attention that is not related to the EdFlex, but is related to waivers in general is next week, you will see a priority notice. Similar populations, superintendents, ESEA coordinators, and business managers will receive a priority notice related to the request that the Maine Department of Education is making on behalf of all Maine's SAUs for FY25 tidings waiver, which would allow use of FY25 funds for an additional 12 months, so through September of 26. In addition, the other request that we are making on behalf of our SAUs is related to FY26 Title I carryover limitations. So please keep your eyes open. We have a colleague collecting those comments, and we do encourage everyone to submit a comment in favor or with some concerns associated with the FY25 tidings waiver and FY26 Title I carryover limitation. We also wanted to emphasize the importance of being mindful of all of the ESEA required due dates. When a submission becomes past due, SAUs will receive formal notifications at 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days beyond the original deadline. These reminders are intended to provide opportunities to address any outstanding requirements and also provide additional support should it be needed. It's important to understand that there are potential consequences for incomplete or overdue ESEA submissions. Again, staying consistent and current with submissions help to ensure continued access to funding and minimizes administrative delays. If you have any questions or if any challenges arise, please be sure you're communicating with your regional program manager as soon as possible, as that is strongly encouraged. Their support will provide some additional guidance.
Morning, everyone. So in that same vein, we just want to offer a friendly reminder to everyone around some ESEA work that might still be outstanding. If your SAU has not yet received state approval on your FY25 ESEA performance report submission, it's really become imperative that you and your colleagues work to obtain that approval as soon as you can. This might involve things like working to submit either an initial or updated performance report, maybe working with your business office to submit some outstanding payment requests for FY25 funds, and other things of that nature. One thing that we're also recommending for everyone is that just go in and double check the status of your performance report in Grants for Me. We've been noticing a bit of a trend as of late where things are getting a bit hung up in the resubmission process, meaning you as an ESEA coordinator might submit it, but then it might kind of be there in limbo waiting on either your business office or your superintendent to electronically certify your submission, at which point it's considered officially resubmitted to us. So if you don't know if you don't remember whether or not you have that approval yet, by all means go in and check. And if it's something that you know that you've been actively working on, we also encourage you to go in and take a look and see if your submission's actually made its way back to us yet, or if it's waiting for some additional approval levels on your end. We also wanted to remind folks that our FY26 ESEA monitoring cycle is well underway. All SAU monitoring submissions were due to us last month, and myself and the rest of our team are in the process now of reviewing those submissions. And that would have been for any SAUs that were or received notification that they were at the medium or high level for monitoring within their grant award notifications for FY26. Now, our team will have completed our review and provided feedback on all submission items later this month. We're currently targeting February 25th, and I have no doubt that we'll make that date. If you're looking for feedback later this month as to where you kind of landed with your submission and what might be needed for any sort of corrective action, you would find that by going to the ESEA monitoring instrument within Grants for Me, and then specifically pulling up the monitoring results LEA response page. This is going to kind of be your initial status of all of the items that you submitted in response to monitoring. As you can see here, there's a few different ratings that each of your submissions might receive. And really the one that you want to pay attention to is anything that's flagged as not meeting requirements, because that is something that will require further action on the part of your SAU. And those updated submissions in response to anything that might not meet requirements would be due later in March, specifically on the 11th. But again, on either of these pieces, if anyone has any questions, if you're maybe new to your SAU or you're picking up something that somebody else left behind, by all means, reach out to your regional program manager, because we're happy to help guide you in whatever best way we can.
Good morning, everyone. We just wanted to send a reminder that another requirement under Title I is comparability. Section 111H(c) in statute describes this in great detail. Basically, if you have if you're a district with multiple attendance areas, we're going to be comparing your non-Title I to Title I schools to make sure there's comparable resources being spent at both. So regional program managers are in the process right now of going through our districts. So we'll be sending documentation shortly within the next month or so. Be on the lookout for some letters on this topic. You'll need those for your own record keeping. And yes, it will go to the ESEA coordinator, superintendents, business managers.
Great. Good morning, all. I'm here to preface that we will be having a Title I summer reallocated grant this year for Title I summer programming. We will hold a virtual training on March 4th to go over the application, the parameters of the project. I will say that this year there's going to be maybe a third of the funding available from previous years. Folks are spending down their funds. We have less carryover of expiring funds, which is great. But that means that reallocated funds that sort of come from those corners of our grant funds are much less than they have been in previous years. So I actually want to urge, and I will talk about this in the training, I want to urge folks to understand what carryover they may have left. If they're facilitating Title I programs for targeted or school-wide, you can continue that in the summer. For targeted, you would put that in the project description, your targeted students receiving additional services. Your school-wide, right, it would be those that you want to identify yourselves for school-wide programming or all students, and use those carryover funds or use your ESEA application funds as well to supplement programs. So I will go through this. There will be probably more stringent reallocation procedures, meaning that we might not fund all programs. We might fund only those that don't have carryover funds left, those kinds of things. So we will be making those decisions and be really transparent about the ranking system, because again, we will have about 1/3. So we had about 3 million last year. We'll probably only have 1 million about to be able to spread out to districts who are doing this incredible work. So Tiffany, for school-wide programs, they could. If you've consolidated and you do Title IV things at your school, you can use any school-wide funds to be funding your summer program if they're in your high needs school-wide plan. So I'll talk more about that as well, right? I just want folks to understand those types of flexibilities there when we go through the training, and that the funding really is much less than previous years. Speaking of which, I want to thank everybody who was in the training last week on Wednesday. It was great to see many people. I think we had about 90 or so. The application will open after the training, so not till March. Sorry, looking at chat as well. So applying for school-wide programming, if you're operating a Title I targeted assistance program and you're interested in a school-wide program, we have a recording from last week's training that is now available online. And really what the process should be is internally with your SAU and school level required stakeholders, you should be meeting to talk through plans probably more than once. Should be going through your data analysis, your comprehensive needs assessment process for that school, fulfilling the requirements of the plan, and then submitting that to me by July 1. I am also very, very happy to talk through school districts that have additional questions or specificities. I'm happy to jump on a Zoom call with any district, regardless of region, if they want to talk about what school-wide means to them and the potential options that they have available. And part of this sort of new appeal towards school-wide is, I hope, going to be done in a more effective way, because we have now put up new templates online. We have SAU level needs assessments still per Title II and IV, especially in that statute. You're looking at district level high needs and prioritizing high needs schools with your Title II and Title IV dollars. However, the rest of Title I, almost all of the statute related to needs is really at the school level, and that includes for Maine models school support. So your CSI, ATSI, and TSI programs, those are all school level required plans. So what we decided to do is separate those so that folks can have individual school templates that meet the requirements of all programs. So they'll meet your school-wide requirements, they'll meet CSI, ATSI, and TSI. So if you think about it, really each of your schools that are identified should have a plan. And those templates are disaggregated. So there's one that has SAU and school for those of you one school districts that would like just one template for your schools. For SAUs with multiple schools, there's actually a school level only as well. So you just need one SAU level, and then you can have one for each of your schools. And that would meet those requirements. So take some time to fill those out and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. On Tuesday, March 3rd at 9 a.m., we'll be hosting our annual equitable service training for all of you folks who have a non-public school within your SAU or within the boundaries of your SAU and those non-public school partners. Similar to the training we've done in previous years, we're going to cover some background information on title funds, what's allowable with equitable services, as well as some best practices for consultation and kind of fiscal requirements when providing equitable services. Attending the training or viewing the recording, like in previous years, is a requirement for our non-public schools to receive equitable services. So we're going to provide the Zoom link here for you folks, but we also ask that you help spread the word to your non-public partners, especially those who might be new in their role, so that they can kind of get the full understanding of what's required of them to receive equitable services in FY27.
We also wanted to draw your attention to the data for the Small Rural School Achievement Grant Program, also known as the Federal Title V. The data has been submitted to the U.S. Department of Education for all LEAs in preparation of FY27 allocations. It's important to note that the poverty percentage information comes directly from the Census Bureau through the SAPE data. The U.S. Department of Education REAPS team, which is known as the Rural Education Achievement Program, will review the submitted data and eligibility. During the months of April and May, a spreadsheet will become available for all LEAs that might be eligible for the federal Title V, also known as the SRSA program. Once eligibility is finalized, the primary contact for that program at the LEA level will receive the federal application via email. Eligible LEAs will then apply to SRSA unless the LEA is duly eligible and chooses to apply for the state Title V, which is known as RLIS, Rural and Low Income Schools Program. So more to come on Title V for FY27.
Good morning, everyone. I have a few fiscal reminders for you. Here's the invoicing reminders that if you receive $250,000 or more in a title grant, you must invoice monthly. All others that receive less than $250,000 may invoice up to 3 months at a time or less. If you are invoicing for salaries, you must also invoice for the associate benefits. There are 2 exceptions to when you can invoice for benefits without salaries. That is the health insurance. If you accrue your salaries in June and you pay them out, or you pay out all your salaries in June that would normally cover the summer, your health insurance that is invoiced during the summer months can be paid as just a request for benefits. Tuition reimbursement is also a benefit of employment. That is the only time we should see an invoice for benefits independent of salaries. We have worked hard with our service center to provide payment timely once an invoice is received in approvable form. At the present time, you are being paid out within 10 days of receipt of that invoice. Written policies and procedures that you need to be mindful of are on this slide. There are a few required written policies and procedures. And this is a friendly reminder that these must be maintained if you receive federal funds. As a general best practice, we recommend reviewing all procurement policies at least every 3 years, as opposed to waiting to be monitored to find out the SAU doesn't even have one of these required policies. Regular reviews help ensure policies remain current, compliant, and top of mind for all stakeholders. These required written policies and procedures are reviewed during monitoring and may be tested throughout the grant's life cycle. Some key takeaways from this slide are a written commitment to obtain services or supplies is when an obligation is made. When federal funds are being used to support in part or whole the obligation, services or supplies must be received and expensed within the period of performance. The period of performance for any ESEA grant begins with the date of substantial approval of the application for funds and ends when the grant ends, as noted on your grant award notice, which is also known as a GAN. The next slide. My pet peeve is a slide with too many words on it, but here you go. It was pertinent that we put this information on the slide as this was a question posed to the federal fiscal team during our office hours, and this is the response that was provided to all attendees of the Federal Fiscal Team office hour. I am not going to read this verbatim as this is not the time for riveting bedtime stories. However, I will summarize the question and response. The question was posed, why is the vendor dated signature taken into consideration when determining an obligation? If the SAU waits to sign the contract after the substantial approval date. The Federal Fiscal Team, in collaboration with our colleagues across the DOE, prepared and dispersed the following response. We believe that intent to purchase is there with the signature, and certainly that case can be made if the SAU sends the contract to the vendor prior to getting substantial approval. But what if the vendor creates the contract? Vendors do not know the procurement standards for federal funds or all the contract requirements. Therefore, the SAU is putting themselves in a position to be out of compliance with its own procurement policies and procedures. Federal funds are not guaranteed. So if you are searching for services to be provided in the next school year during the spring or summer of the current school year, then request a written quote. Most vendors will issue a quote that is valid for at least 30 days. The SAU would need to seek pre-award costs for contracts that start July 1st if they intend to use current year funds. I encourage all to review the legal references on the slide, and if you have further questions, you can give myself a call or email or anyone else on the Federal Fiscal Team. And this is just a reminder, which Travis did a great job reminding folks earlier in the presentation. FY25 performance reports are overdue. There is still 37 outstanding as of this morning. Please make sure that you are closing out your FY23 grant in order to get your performance report approved. Some reports have been sitting there for months waiting for FY23 to be closed out. This is a chart that includes ESEA federal grants that are currently open to access funds. Please note that several grants will close this year. It is recommended that you make a cheat sheet like the one below and set aside some time each month to review the status of your grants and reimbursements. This will mitigate the risk of losing funds that will be ending soon. Thank you, and as always, if you have any questions, please contact me.
All right, as we wrap things up this morning, just a reminder that the department has a number of professional learning opportunities that we offer to folks in the field. You can find all of those on the department's PD calendar, which is updated pretty regularly. And if you need anything from any of us, our contact information is here. For the most part, your regional program manager is your primary point of contact for all of your questions. If you do have a fiscal question, never a bad idea to CC Tyra on that message as well, so everyone stays in the loop. And if it's specifically about school improvement, then Monique might be someone else you want to include in that email. But regardless, your regional program manager can help get you the right answer you need. And you can find more information about the Maine Department of Education here.